Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Thrive DTSP and our amazing podcast studio for another episode of our community conversations where we talk to some of the most phenomenal members we have here in Thrive DTSP. And today we have Alycia Dodson. And I'm not even going to put your title or company after that because there are so many things that you do, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here because you're truly one of the most fascinating and interesting people here in our building. So I'm going to just let you have the floor and talk about whatever projects you want to talk about that you have in the works.
Yeah, and part of the reason I don't have a formal title in a lot of cases is just because I have a lot of titles.
You can make them up.
Honestly, it's just
so fun.
I agree, and I have always kind of been, I've always been in the entrepreneurship space. Like I never had a traditional, had a job, but it was at a startup, start coming out of college, but I've never worked for a corporation or anything big. And so I've always been like a very free flowing type of professional space. And now that I am kind of doing my own thing, starting my own businesses, I am all over the map, I think. And that it's just a trend of my life.
I love this. But listen, the thing that I've observed about you is you are so absolutely fearless that you just will charge ahead and you have an idea and you're like, you know what? Yep, we're going to do this. We're going to learn how to do it. I don't have any idea how to do it, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to nail it. I'm going to make myself better.
Thank you. I think I'm very naturally curious. There's a lot of things I see and I'm just like, why is this a thing? Or why is this not a thing? Right. And so it starts from the just a genuine curiosity to understand how people work and how the world works. And a lot of what I do has just stemmed from that. And so I think the most major part of what I call it on my day-to-day, if I had to bulk my activities, the largest part of what I do is our holding company, Harriet Ventures. And at Harriet Ventures, that all started because I worked in the startup space for a while. So I was the COO of a couple different startups, venture backed and raised funding and expanded and did the whole thing. All of those are defunct now. They have all died. And when I was 4 or 5 years into doing that, and I got to a place where I was like, this whole capital and ownership and investing thing is really interesting to me. But I also know that I'm not in the owner's seat, right? I was C-suite, but I wasn't founder level. And when you're not founder level, you get a pittance. You get I had 2% or 3% or 5% of the startups. And I'm like, this is not, but for the work I'm doing, because I'm the only other C-suite person, I feel like I should have more than that, but y'all don't want to give me more than that. And I don't think that that's fair. So I just was exploring how that works, right? How evaluations work and how you raise a seed and then a pre-seed or a pre-seed and a seed and go on in your path. So I learned a lot about that. I learned a lot about VC investing, angel investing, and then the mechanisms there and how dilution works. Because the first startup I worked for, they raised total, I don't know, 25 million or something. And but the founders ended up so diluted because they took on really aggressive capital at COVID time. So then COVID hit and it was half our revenue just dropped off in a span of a week and a half. So they took on it was really tough. And so they took on aggressive capital from family office. And the family office capital converted in a way that diluted them all the way down, under the tens of percentages. And so the company shut down, not because it wasn't making money. They were making money, their revenue, they're almost profitable. And so they were making progress, but they looked at it and they're like, where this is at, we're going to have to keep fundraising and the payoff on this is not going to be worth it to us.
Right.
So I was just watching all of these things. Right. And then I went to do my MBA. And after that, I found the path of I knew for sure I wanted to own something, the majority of something, because I just was this is standard now. I'm not doing work for other people. This is not going to work for me. I'm going to work for me and I'm going to own the majority of it. And so then I found the micro private equity space. And that is what we do now with Harriet Ventures is we acquire majority stakes in companies that the people are retiring or they have some other life event and they want to move on from what they've done in their company. And then we own them. And that has been that was the whole start of it. But it was just, I was I don't like what I see here. And I need to find another way to accomplish my goals, but also have it be meaningful to me, because I went through a number of different situations where I was I'm putting in a lot of effort and a lot of time and making connections. I'm getting things done, but I'm not going to benefit from that in a way that other people are going to benefit from it. So how do I fix this? So I just try to approach things with curiosity and I have a lot of energy.
You do have a lot of energy.
Fueled by caffeine and I didn't actually, for the longest time, basically until I met my husband, I didn't even drink caffeine.
Really?
So I was like, it's too much for me. And it's actually still too much in the now I can focus it and direct it a little. Cheers, right? And Thrive has actually been, for the longest time, it was like, no coffee. And if I need to really amp up, I'll have a cup of tea. And then it was like, okay, maybe I'll have 1 cup of coffee. And now I'm at 1 cup of coffee at home and 1 cup of coffee at Thrive. And I am fully ramped up.
I mean, it's tempting having that kawa coffee just like calling your name all the time. It's just right there.
At least $3 a day.
Yeah.
It's just the math on if everybody's considering a membership.
Right?
It's a part of it. And it's a good place to just say hi. Because otherwise in my office, I don't come out as much as I should.
It's so funny that you recognize that. Not many people know this, but where the coffee is physically placed in the kitchen is very intentional. And it's kind of jammed in that corner. And the reason is because, and you've experienced this, you come out to get a cup of coffee. You have to if there's anybody in there, you have to kind of get in their personal space a little bit.
Yes, you do.
And that is exactly what we intended. We want people to have kind of those organic conversations and bump-ins around the coffee.
Yeah, well, I think it's fantastic. And that's the whole reason I wanted to come here in the first place is because I was at another co-working space and they didn't do any of the community stuff. And they didn't do there was no organic place to talk to people, meet people. And even though I was I didn't have an office at that place. I just was in the public area in my little desk and no conversations, no benefits.
Really?
Whereas when I here now, I can bring people here and I will meet people here. And I work with a number of different firms that are within the building, just on my normal day-to-day stuff. And that fostering, I think all credit to you or all credit to the team here, because for me, it's very valuable, right? And I can start to build out a team of people I can reference. We're not big enough where we have full-time need for accountants or full-time need for legal departments, but I know on a fractional basis exactly who I can call.
I love
this. Yeah, really helpful.
Oh my gosh, you're such a fantastic testimonial for how easy it is. Because especially too, you've been in that startup world. If you're kind of out there on your own and you don't know where to go, you need an accountant, where do you start? Yeah. You start asking for them, well, who do you use? Who do you use? Mm-hmm. You don't know who's good, who's bad, who you're going to jive with or have a great connection with or kind of understand your business model. And that really was part of what we tried to build here. Is I wanted to make sure we had attorneys and accountants and insurance people, but not too many of them, because it's really important to have that big mix, right? So we have to have other businesses too, like wine educators and massage therapists.
Which
and
is literally so fun, right? And I've not gotten a facial in the middle of the day yet, but it's on my list of things.
You have to do it. I mean, that's the best facial you'll ever have in your life. Props. Green Alchemy Wellness. Natalie Makey, who was on this show, she was my second guest.
Oh, fun. Yeah, no, I've got to take a trip up there because when I turned 30 last year, I was like, okay, we got to get on the skincare. And I know I've told you about this, but it's become increasingly important to me.
Mm-hmm. Everything changes. Mm-hmm. Everything changes. It's great. And I love it that we just have all this stuff here and that I can and steer people to. I mean, all right, so I'm going to go on a total tangent here because you brought up the facial. It's you've seen kind of the hustle and the grind that people are on here at Thrive. People like to have fun and have conversations, but people are working here and they're working hard. And we know, and you know how hard it is to take care of yourself when you're that founder, when you're building a business, or even if you're part of a team that's trying to grow. And so that was one of the things that really pushed us to create some of these wellness opportunities. Yeah. So having a meditation room right here in the building. Do you ever use it?
No, I considered it. It's probably once a week. I'm like, is the nap room still here? I need to go find the nap room.
It is.
I know you say meditation room. I'm like, naps. It's not meditation. I just need to sleep.
We have nap room. We have meditation room. But just having those things here, so it's not like, okay, well, I've got to leave the office and go home and change clothes and take this 1-hour yoga class to decompress. You can literally walk upstairs for 5 minutes and just get back into your body, kind of do some breathing, and then go right back to it. So, all right, I'm going to hold you accountable.
I know.
Nap room, meditation room.
It's so frequent that I need naps. And then I'm like, because of the schedule, I'm like, if I've only got 8 hours to do this today, I'm going to stay here and do it for 8 hours. And then inevitably the work ends up subpar. So noted. But I really love everything that you guys have here and all of the resources that are helpful. Even this studio, I think it seems to me like there's an increase in people using it.
Yes.
That might have been just my view, but then I look and I'm like, oh, it's booked when it didn't used to be booked. Who is using the, but like people
I
are starting
love
to use it
it.
because this is a beautiful studio. Like it's
Right.
you know, not I can spend on your membership free or not free, but like for me, because I have an office, I can use this as much as I want. I'm going to build a whole podcast off of it. So
I mean, yeah, one of the other things. So I don't even know what your podcast is about. All I know is that you just one day decided, I'm going to do a podcast, never done a podcast, don't know anything about it. And you have just taught yourself how to do it, and you're practicing and getting better and better. So what's the topic?
Yeah. Okay. So we went through the original version of the podcast was going to be the Family Fund podcast. That's what I was doing with my siblings. And then we decided that the format doesn't really work. Not the format. My brother and my sister are not yappers. They're not really like, they're not.
I haven't met your sister. I have met your brother. He is not a talkative person.
He's not a talkative person. Like he will talk if he's got something very important to say. So like he'll drop in nuggets of gold. And my sister is also very she's not a chatterbox. They're both very quiet, like reserved type of people. I'm the only one that likes to hear myself talk. So we're like, okay, this is not really working. But that podcast was around like family investing because we've invested in real estate together as siblings with my parents, and we're acquiring a company together. And that one, I was hoping that by the time that we scheduled this, it would be closed, but then we got bumped back. So we're supposed to close July 31st. So now I can't even really talk about it. We're acquiring a company. I'm really excited, but it's all under NDA until we actually close. And then
we'll have you back, and you can.
Oh yes, I'll tell you all about it.
You can tell us all about it.
I'm really, really excited for it. But that was the original version of the podcast, and they were like, okay, this is not going to work. Killed it, which is actually another thing that I do frequently is like I'll start something or like full blown businesses, right? I'll start them, make a little bit of revenue. I'm like, nah, it's not going to work. Just chop it off the head.
I love this. You're such an entrepreneur. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I find that I don't. It's better for me. Like I still feel like I'm in the iteration phase of figuring out what I like want to do and what projects I like and what investments I like. And the faster you kill an idea, then the faster you can move on to something new. And so for me, as I like scatterbrain my way through life, it's just kind of rolling iterations of what I want to do. So that was the original podcast. And then I was like, okay, well, I still want to do a podcast, right? And now I'm just going to do a solo podcast and bring on guests. Fine. So now my new podcast is called Fathom, and it is about Fathom. Yeah, it's called Fathom, and there's two reasons for that. Like Fathom means right to understand, but also I didn't know this because I am apparently uncultured. Hasn't told me, but Fathom is a unit of measurement, so it's a unit of depth measurement. In the ocean, like mainly. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's perfect because what I want the podcast to be about is really like wealth and ownership and capital and power and influence and how all of those things kind of move, but not from the standpoint of the headlines, because you have a lot of like endless headlines. It makes me crazy, but really what's happening there is not, you need to take a longer look at it, like, and you need to go under the surface. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I'm a Cancer, so I'm a water sign. I was like, oh, this is just like all of the things.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so my new podcast is called Fathom, and it has not launched yet. I was supposed to launch yesterday, and today I recorded the first episode, so we are delayed.
All right. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see it. And I want to have like cross promotion on there too. So when you get all of that, we'll make sure we're hyping you up as well.
Yeah. So I kept we had a Family Fund podcast Instagram page, and so then I just converted the page. And I was like, okay, well, this is my page now. And so we have the Instagram page. I've got a website with like a wait list thing on it, so I'll build a newsletter off of it. But I just it's way more difficult than I anticipated to do like a data-based sort of factual-based solo podcast. It's like giving doing like a research project and then giving a presentation on that research project. And I have like not done that since my MBA. I don't even remember last time I did something like that. I do a lot of webinars and like board presentations, investor calls, all of those kinds of things, but that's like just stuff I know just off the back of my head, right? Like it's not as if it's hard, but this is like deep research and me trying to understand what's happened and then put that into a format that I can communicate it cleanly. And we are not there yet.
You're gonna get there. I mean, come on, you're gonna kill it. But yeah. I love this idea, especially of fathom and depth. And you brought up an amazing point, which is it's not really about that headline. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking back to something you said just a few minutes ago when you're talking about some of the companies that you were working with. And you're like, yeah, we raised $25 million. We were bringing in revenue. You know, we were right there at profitability. And if you just look at the headlines, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like this is a screaming success of a company that's poised to go places. And in fact, you go deeper and you look down and you find, okay, that's not really what success looks like. That's not sustainable. That's not how you build a scalable and a scalable company that's set up for longevity. And gosh, I wish more people were talking about that, because all you get, in my newsfeed and probably yours and all the newsletters, oh, they just closed their Series B, their Series C, and, they got $40 million investment. And, you just think, wow, they're so successful. So much more to the story.
That is so true. That is so true, because under the surface, like even I worked for 2 different startups after that. Both of them raised funding. And you see the headlines and you think that they're doing well. And it's the same thing with any company. They're only publishing the stuff that makes it so that they can raise more money, or makes it so they can hit, even public companies do it all the time. But if you look under just one layer down, if you have access to it, and that's the other problem with the private market space, is that it's not public data. And so I know from the inside, right, because I was on the board after I left as COO. I was on the board for a few years, and then so I had all the updates, right, all the investor facing updates, and so you can see what's happening here, but none of that makes it public because it's all private information that doesn't get shared. So you don't really find the story, and then people end up shocked when things go left. When other people from the inside, you're like, I saw that one coming. Yeah. But people are surprised. Or even if you talk to founders, a lot of times they know what's going wrong, but they're not willing to address it for some reason. And just like additional point on why I kill ideas so quickly is because founders get really emotionally attached to it's the idea, but also the model of the idea and how they solve a particular problem. So they might identify a problem in the market, and then they just are dead set on solving the problem in that way. When really they need to look at the problem. You can be passionate about that. That's great. But how you solve it is going to fluctuate depending on what works. And so people really attach themselves emotionally to I want to solve it this way with this software that does this. And the market's like, no, this is a problem, yes, but this way, no. And then people don't let go of it. And then crash and burn. And that's why.
Isn't it funny? I had a former boss tell me something that was so profound, and it was directed toward me at the time. But he said, sometimes our greatest strengths are our weaknesses. And first when he said it, I was like, okay, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then I really started thinking about it. But when you think about just in terms of what you just said and kind of that anecdotes of a founder has to be so committed to their idea that they will go through hell and back and persevere and not give up to get it to the finish line, right? But that strength and that determination also can work against them, exactly what you said, because then sometimes founders get so emotionally attached to an idea or a solution or a direction or a pathway that they can't let go of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's, strengths and weaknesses sometimes are the same thing.
I know. And sometimes it's a crapshoot. Sometimes that'll go your way. But other times, you got to know what you don't know. And sometimes you need to listen to the market a little bit more than people. Being an entrepreneur means that you are stubborn by nature. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be really stubborn and dig your heels into the idea that you're going to do this thing for a long time. And it's going to be eating nails I don't think, maybe it's Elon Musk that said that, who I don't love, but that quote that, that entrepreneurship is chewing glass and staring off into the abyss, right? And so I think that is really true. And that's something you need to be prepared for. But on the flip side of that, you have to listen. You have to take advice and listen to the market above all other things, when really you're in your head and I think this is how we should do it. And sometimes you're Steve Jobs and that works great. And sometimes you're not Steve Jobs and it doesn't work great. Yeah. And you're better off listening to people you probably don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
For all the entrepreneurs out there like me.
Well, and another valuable aspect, and I think this could be something that could be a takeaway for anybody who's looking to buy or start a small business, because I know in some of your business acquisitions, you are looking for those kind of businesses that have been run by a family or just a one person. It's a one location. And when you're thinking about this, you're smart enough and you have the MBA to really dig deep into the books of something and understand, okay, is this business really doing great or is it just like that on the surface? And if you don't, for the layperson who doesn't have an MBA, if they don't have a good business broker or good advisors to say, all right, we're going to really get deep into the accounting here. One thing that blew my mind when I was in college and learning all the business stuff, and even having run several small businesses, that I always had in my mind accounting was it was a science, right? There was a way. You had this way, there's one way to do this, and this is the right way, and everything else is wrong. And that is not true. Yeah. It is an art, and there's a lot of creativity, and there is a lot of ways you can manipulate what's happening to make it look a certain way. And if you don't are surrounding yourself by people who have that understanding and that vision and that expertise, it's really easy to get yourself in a bad position. Yeah, so I love it that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I imagine that's the kind of thing you're talking about, though, on your podcast, is for people really to learn and understand what financial opportunity there is and what pitfalls there are too.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of them. So our space in terms of like small business acquisition, there's a lot of them. And I find that what is publicized online, like the places that are easy to gather information from, Instagram and YouTube, those ones, they push things that are simpler to understand to try to get people like galvanized to like buy a laundromat or buy something like that. And I'm like, that's not the path. That is not the path that you need. The idea is correct, that you should probably own some assets that do some cash flow, right? But that could be real estate, that could be a laundromat, that could be a lot of different things. But what is being pushed heavily is like the simplest version of it, so that, because they're going for reach, like the accounts that push this type of content, they're going for reach. So they simplify everything. And then same way you have, the real estate population, the real estate investor population, that those communities have done this for a long time too, where they're pushing, just flip a house, flip a house. And then you have a new investor who's never worked in a house before. They don't know how to, they don't know so many things. They go into it and then that house flips them because they just don't know what they don't know. And they're pushed a vision of something that was like simple and easy to do. And not that it's learnable. It's all learnable information. It's like all stuff that anybody can learn with enough time and effort. But like,
and your podcast.
And my podcast, any of the social medias, like I try to talk about it from my perspective, because it's not the most complicated. The financial stuff is not the most complicated, but it's complicated enough that you need to dedicate time. It's not something you can't just walk into a laundromat and like expect that to change your life, because that's not the way that it works. And I think there's a lot of disservice done to the nature of what we do as a firm. From the bottom side, like the simplicity side, that people are like, oh, go buy a laundromat. Like, don't, and for the record, don't go buy a laundromat. Don't do it. Like, I mean, if you understand what it's going to do. Don't buy a laundromat. Yeah, it depends what you want it to do for you, because these things are not, the main thing is like, people think that they're like hands off, or like, oh, this is going to be an absentee thing. It just runs and gives me cash. And like, the world doesn't work like that. There is no free lunch. It's not going to do that, one. And two, you probably don't know the actual financials on it, because a lot of it's cash-based transactions, right? So you're going off of what somebody tells you, and it's always a risky scenario. And then on the flip side of that, like the firms that are bigger than us, that do what we do, like the private equity class of firms, they're also doing awful, awful things. And so I think from both sides, I forget where I started this train of thought. Oh my God.
Well, just, I think that with accounting and not really understanding what creates a profitable business and what goes in and what comes out. And I'll tell you too, just to kind of tack on, you've got the private equity doing a disservice. You've got the bite-size 5-second social media doing a massive disservice. But you know who is also not helping this, and sorry in advance, but banks. Because if you go into a bank to try to get a small business loan on a business that is something new and different, bank's like, I don't understand that. Sorry. You come in and say, I want to buy a laundromat. They're like, great. How much do you need?
Yeah.
Or a car wash. Or I want to have a storage facility. Again, name your price, blank check. And so that's another problem of banks really kind of feeding into this mindset, like, oh, well, if a bank is going to give me this money, of course it's going to make a ton of money. Otherwise, the bank wouldn't give me money if I had a chance of not being successful. So it really is it's unfortunate to see so many people who have been taken advantage of by this notion. Like the intention is right? Like nobody, we all know nobody's going to get wealthy working a job.
Yes.
That is
100%.
not the pathway to wealth. You have to own stuff.
Yes.
Own something, own a company, own a business, own a house, own property, it has to be ownership. So giving people that pathway to ownership in a way that's smart.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be small things. So, I mean, you're doing a service to society with your Fathom podcast. I love this.
Yeah. Well, I have tried to. I've actually been, I started volunteering when I was in like 8th grade, 9th grade, maybe even before that. And I've always volunteered. Like I've always tried to take a little bit of time every month or every few months to like just do something of service. And so that sort of like when I was in high school, I worked at the food bank, and then I worked at the furniture bank, and then I just when I was in college, I got a scholarship, so I had to do it anyway, and I was like, okay, easy peasy. And then when I graduated from college with my undergrad, I was trying to find a way that was more applicable. So I started teaching business planning classes at the Women's Business Center in Milwaukee, which I still do classes and sessions for on business plans and things like that. And I find it really valuable, and it's something that's important to me to just like try to, if I know something or I think I know something and I have an inkling that this is the right direction, to share that with other people, because I'm also very often in need of other smart people that like will help me. And so there's so many people that have gone out of their way to help Alycia in her path, and I'm like, I can do nothing but give this back. Right, to try to like and at the very least, like right now the version of that is not necessarily like dedicated volunteer hours. It's like me creating videos. I literally yesterday was like, if you're gonna buy a car wash or a vending machine or a laundromat, know that these are very small, and you're walking into a place like this is basically a job for you, and you're probably not going to like this job, right? And it's going to give you a little cash flow. If you got nothing better to do, fine, do that. But like I try to just communicate on my social media what I think about things, because I'm hoping that it's helpful, because a lot of people have genuinely like gone very far out of their way to help me on my path here. So,
well, I have a lot of people who are on this podcast and who are doing a lot of service for the city of St. Petersburg and for our community. And it is so much more, like you said. I mean, sometimes it is related to their actual business and kind of giving that expertise back. Sometimes it's just outside of that and just being a good citizen and a good steward of the community. And I really stand by the fact that St. Petersburg is such a special place and will continue to evolve because of that mindset, right? Community, I pontificate about community all the time. And we've had this just massive influx of people come into St. Pete, right? Who are like, you guys have a great community. We love community. And I kind of want to just shake people by the shoulders and say, you don't just like show up and you're in the community. That's not how it works, because it has to be a give and a take. That's how communities are built. And then it has to feed back into itself. Yeah. So even I had Kim Vogel on, who is starting a community investment fund, right? So the idea is talking about building wealth, right? So people here are investing in this fund that's investing in companies, that's hiring people here locally so that they can make money, so they can invest. And the idea is we're feeding back into this. I mean, even if it's not local, even if it is still for back in Milwaukee, right? Like that attitude of giving back into the community that helped build you up, that's how you create sustainable ecosystems and communities and economies that work. Yeah. So I love it that you do that. And maybe just a little inspiration too, is you're kind of talking to some of these potential business owners, maybe saying, hey, listen, if you get really good at this and you've gotten something out of this, then do me a favor and you do it too, right? Give back into people who are into the community, into the mindset of, you can do this. Here are things I learned. Here's what not to do. Yeah. I think that's a great part of the journey.
Yeah. And I actually, what you just said about the community in St. Pete particularly is really important, because there's a unique culture here as far as cities go. And I just was, what day is today? Oh my God. Friday. On Wednesday, then. On Wednesday, I talked to a chamber member, because I just joined the Chamber of Commerce here. Woo-hoo. And they have a chamber ambassador. His name is Doug. I forget what his last name is.
Homeyer.
No, the other one.
Oh, other Doug. Oh, Jackson.
Yes. DJ. Yes. Because I was like, DJ, that's his friend.
The other Doug.
Yeah, the other Doug. And he has created his own, he's an ambassador now, but he's not in charge of the committee or anything. And he has created his own chamber pathways packet. And he delivered the packet to me at our meeting. And I was like, this is so special because you didn't have to do this, right?
Yeah.
You just decided that like you wanted to welcome me into the chamber, and we were sitting there at Craft Cafe inside, and it was 4 people that we talked to, had like full blown conversations as we were just sitting chatting, right, about the chamber, and that is so special. And I was also at the first chamber, I only went to one chamber meeting so far. It was the investment, I think it was the investment committee, maybe something. It wasn't the public policy committee. It was running, legislation. Sorry. I only went to one meeting. It was a legislation meeting. And they were talking about whether or not the chamber should take a position on the real estate tax cut or whatever that is from the federal or the state government. And somebody there, like there's like genuine debate on either side. And I think they're going to do a follow-up thing about it, which I think is really great. But one of the points that came out of that was a guy said that the reason that you have, like, if you cut things, if you cut the budget to the city, which is what's going to happen if you drop the real estate taxes, you lose a lot of the things that make the city the city. And if you don't want these things, if you don't want the arts and you don't want events and you don't want festivals and you don't want parades and you don't want to be a part of the community, go to the suburbs.
Right.
Because this is why we live in St. Pete, right? Like you live in St. Pete because, yes, you need a place to live. But there's a business community here and there's a community of people that like arts and we like food and we like events and we like to celebrate. And I think that is very special about St. Pete in particular. And that is like what makes it have its own culture, like its own community. And so I thought it was just like a really interesting way to frame that. That's what makes the city a city and the suburbs the suburbs. Because if you don't care, by all means, go to the suburbs.
Go there.
The city budget doesn't matter to you. That's fine. That's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is a great way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
I actually asked the same question of Chris Steinacher if the chamber was going to take a formal position on the topic. So I'm glad it's being talked about.
Yes.
It's nice to be in a place that is very, and especially in the chamber, you see this a lot, that we're a kind of purple city now, right? Yeah. It didn't used to be like that. But it's nice to have those different opinions and conversations. And I think one thing that's really special about St. Petersburg is people are able to come together and have opposing sides, opposing views, but actually talk about it. Have a conversation about it. It doesn't mean we're always going to agree on things, but I think it's really important to kind of hear those different perspectives and understand them. And that's something I see a lot here that is very uncommon, I think, in other places. Especially in chamber, you're going to have, that's a great kind of microcosm too, because you're by definition going to have people who are, very pro-business and pro-capitalism, and that's great. They have become very successful. You're going to have other people who are on the nonprofit side that maybe are a little bit more blue, like, hey, we really need to be doing more for our social services. But understanding that everybody has a voice at that table is important.
I thought like that to me was very eye-opening, just being a new member to the chamber and also being like a relative. I moved here like 3 years ago, so relatively new, I guess. But that you have within that chamber room, it was probably 25 people or something that showed up to the meeting, and there was debate on both sides, but debate from, there's like so many, even just me as a person, like as a stakeholder, I am a homeowner, right? And so I care about the property taxes quite a bit.
Right.
But I'm also a mom and I have kids and I care about what happens to the school taxes if we do anything with that, even though they say it won't. I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
But I'm also a citizen and a resident of St. Pete. And so I care about what the city is doing. And I'm also a business owner.
Right.
And so I care about what it does for, granted, my businesses are not necessarily local until we acquire this one. But that is like another conversation. So there was a ton of different perspectives. And I was like, this is a really interesting issue. And so what they decided to do was like at that meeting, and I don't know if it's, I've not been a part of any other chamber of commerce, but I was told after the fact that the St. Pete chamber is very effective because what they decided to do was we were at the meeting and it was like, we don't have enough data to even really debate this heavily. So they wanted to form 2 subcommittees, and the subcommittees, like one for one side, one for the other side, and drum up data, right? Come do the data, do the math and figure out, and then we'll schedule another event. And we'll talk about both sides, and then we'll discuss what we actually think about this. And I was like, this brings me back to like Oxford Union days, and you got people debating sides. It was fantastic. But that was really eye-opening for me, and I think it's a really effective way. And granted, one meeting, so I've not been to the wants to say how the rest of them run. But that one was all kinds of intellectually stimulating for me.
I love that. I mean, but isn't that also kind of going back to your original mission of what you do in talking to business and even your professional background? Isn't that so important to have? You as COO have to be the voice to the CEOs, like, listen, friend, I know you are so attached to this idea, but
Yeah.
you're going to have to listen to some other perspectives or you're going to doom your own company, right? It's kind of been a continuing theme of what we've talked about on this podcast, but how important it is to bring those different voices to the table and have diversity, right? Have representation in the room. One of the reasons, too, just to kind of bring it back to Thrive a little bit, too, is people walk around these halls and say, oh, my gosh, this is so cool. You have all these different kinds of businesses. And I remind people that is a very intentional decision on our part. That was not accidental. And I joke I could have filled this place with attorneys 10 times over. Nothing against attorneys. We love our attorneys. But the real value in this community comes from the fact that we have so many different industries represented here. We have different ages represented here. We have people who grew up in different backgrounds. We have different gender identities, different religions, really just kind of all of the ways you can think of differentiators of people. We have that here. Yeah. I looked out in the common area just the other day and I counted, there were about, 10 people sitting around. Of the 10, 7 different nationalities represented at that one time. And I thought that was so amazing. But the reason that's important is not just so I can like pat myself on the back and say, look at me, we're diverse, but because when you have those different life experiences, those different backgrounds, that's when you have those rich conversations. That's when you really can create a strong and sustainable community. And, that's what we're trying to do here. Yeah. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make your community a better place and bring those different voices and give back and help. It's just kind of, it seems like the overarching theme of what you do as well.
Well, and that's also why I just love to be here, frankly. Like it's just, it makes me so happy to show up here. Whereas like if I think about where I used to work from, I'm like, I dread going here. It's dark. Nobody talks to me. This is great. Like it's intentional community creation is what you've done here, and I think that that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it's fun and it's energetic and it feels inspiring. You walk in and right, like you're like, oh yeah, people are getting shit done here.
Oh yeah, they are. They certainly are. And I also have people I can lean on that I know are going to move with some speed, and that's for me. Like I am moving with like a certain pace of. Even like, so I work with Sloan Accounting here in the building, and like if I email Josh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm shooting off emails, and he's emailing me right back. He's one of the only people that I know that he's up the same time as I'm up, and he's working from the same time I'm working. And that is not a common thing, but just like the fact that he was the one that actually introduced me to Thrive in the first place. So
really?
I had a coffee with him in the lobby, and I was like, I got to get in here.
I didn't know that. Thanks, Josh. That's awesome.
No, he's great. But I think the culture here is unique. Right. And so just don't let anyone else in. Long story short, it's full. We're at capacity.
There's room for a few more. Yeah. Don't worry. We're gonna keep. But I'm never take my eye off that ball. I promise it's gonna be people who are additive to our community.
Oh yeah, no, I know that for sure. And I joke like it's the more people the better because you have good judgment.
Oh, thank you. Anything else? Any other fun projects you want to talk about? We'll have you back on. You can fill in. We'll do another recording after the NDA is done and you can officially announce the new business.
Yeah, no. Nothing else for now. Now. I think the other projects that I'm doing are, they're coming together, and I'll talk about those more if there's more going on with them. Because one I'm genuinely excited about, but I've not started market testing yet. So like I built the website and I started warming up the emails for outreach and all of that type of stuff, but it's still an infrastructure phase. And the only other thing that I'm doing that it might be a little bit notable is I'm starting to look at Caribbean investments because I'm half St. Lucian, and I was down there for like 3.5 weeks, and I've not been there since I was like 20. So we used to go like every other year when I was a child, and so I grew up being back and forth to Minnesota and St. Lucia. And then at 20 is when like I went to college, I graduated from college, and so then I was traveling for work, and Dad didn't go back until I was 30, like some weeks ago. And I was like, this is wild. All the things that I know about business and investments now, looking at this with those eyes, we got to make some changes, y'all. We got to do something about it. So that is still in like development, because I for whatever reason got down there and I was like, this is a whole new view. It's like a decade's worth of Alycia having more experience and understanding on a level that I didn't when I was young. And now I'm like, who, the extractors, you people down here that are just extracting from this economy? No more.
Yeah.
So there's that, but we'll leave that for next time.
I love it. All right. Thank you so much. You are such a wealth of interesting information. I can't wait to see how the podcast evolves, and we'll have you back for a follow-up.
Thank you for having me.
All right.